Okay, so my learning lab. I'm going to use some notes so I can try to include everything that I need to. My research focused topic is communication and self-advocacy, and I'm going to use the IEP process to help this process along. The generational skills addressed: communication, self-direction, and personal responsibility. We know that if students start taking responsibility for their own learning, they tend to do better, complete better quality work, and all of that kind of thing. The task transformation filter is agency. I see again and again that students, even at the high school level, sit through their IEP and they don't take an active role in it. They oftentimes say they don't know why they have an IEP, what their disability is, or what their accommodations can do to help their progress in academics. So my goal is to help them learn about their needs and their disability. Risks. At the high school level, it's difficult to have some earnest conversations with students who have repeatedly not been successful. They can feel beaten down when you start talking about what their disability is. It can be tricky ground to walk on. So it's always a risk to have those conversations. Parents either are really involved, ultra involved, and want everything all the time, at any time, for their students. And so trying to educate parents on what we can and cannot do at JVA as an option school can be risky too. So I think the risk in having some difficult conversations, it can be tough. The research listed there all indicates that students need to learn and explicitly taught about how you self-advocate. If they don't really know what their disability is, they can't really help themselves. They need to know, and they need to know how it affects them. Not that they need to know, what the brain is doing and all that, but how their difficulty is relaying into their academics. So research is really clear on that explicit education of this is important. So my process, what do I plan to do? When a student enrolls in JVA or prior to their IEP meeting, I'm giving them a really brief 6-question survey to see what they know about their disability, what they know about their accommodations, and from that, I will hopefully help to educate them on stuff that they don't know. Examples from the survey are, do you know what an IEP plan is? Oh, why are you receiving services for an IEP? What are your learning strengths? What are your learning difficulties? What are your educational accommodations? And what are your IEP goals? IEP goals are typically written to address how their disability impacts education. And so those are benchmarks throughout the IEP for a year, in progress monitoring and all that. Another section of the IEP that I want to address is there's a section called Student Impact Statement, and that is where we write how the student's disability impacts their education, their educational setting. So an example I'm going to share is a student we know, Jade, and her impact statement. I held her IEP meeting last spring, and so this is her impact statement. Jade appears to have an elevated level of emotional and adaptive struggles as supported by the BASC-3 results, as well as teacher feedback from teachers, which are occurring both at school and home, and which are likely to be interfering factors in Jade's academic and social performance and progress. Jade can get overwhelmed with things happening outside of her control. When this happens, she has a great difficulty moving forward with schoolwork. It may take a day or so for her to reboot, or in other instances, she rebounds within a half an hour. Jade's anxiety, depression, and symptoms of PTSD impact her ability to function successfully in a traditional school environment. Jade often arrives to campus declaring she is tired or hungry or the like. She shares her non-academic frustrations quite freely with her teachers. Her identified disability is a serious emotional disability, which gets in the way of her education. It sometimes immobilizes her from working. And so for her to understand that is important for her to succeed. She understands her disability. She knows she has emotional troubles, and she can say, I feel whatever. Now we're working on what steps, what the accommodations work for her to move forward in her academics. Her accommodations are to ask for short breaks, let teachers know that you need one when she's on campus and when she's at home, trying to encourage her to reach out to teachers, let them know what she needs. She does have the ability to leave a class if she needs support, but she needs to do it appropriately. In the past, there have been blown-ups and belligerence and things like that, so working on appropriate breaks. She can use headphones or drawing as it's appropriate. She can do her work and have a sketch pad side by side, and it doesn't impact her academic work. So that is something that's allowed. Headphones, she has been allowed headphones. This year she's following the JVA school rule. If she does get overwhelmed, she's been told that she can come out to the main room and use her headphones there, because it does help her come down and reapproach work. So that's that. I'm going to address some of the things on the template. It's there. You can look at that too if you want to. So what's the root cause? Why are students struggling? And again, I think it's a lack of awareness, and a lack of knowledge, and I think a lack of just accepting they have an IEP and they have educational difficulties. So that's the main crux of it there. So differentiating, kids with an IEP, they all have goals again, addressing their academic needs. So each student's IEP, each student has individual goals that they are working on. And it's usually one or two academic goals and maybe one emotional goal if it's appropriate. Providing flexible learning, I think JVA inherently allows that for each student's needs. And so I think letting students know the flexibility they have and how to use that flexibility is really important. So feedback, growth producing feedback, I think students, I need to know students well enough to give them hard feedback when necessary, positive feedback as often as I can. Giving, not criticism, but difficult feedback can be really tricky too. And so getting to know a student before having some of those tougher ones is really important, so that it's received and accepted rather than a student getting angry and shutting down. So that can get a little bit tricky, but more positives, I think, help build a rapport and relationship to then be able to give some of that hard feedback. Students setting goals. Most of the time, my students kind of know their goals in our IEP, and so we work on that. They also, I want them to work on setting goals, baby goals, weekly goals about their schoolwork. You know, if they're in TAG, Edgenuity, percentage progress, if they're in traditional assignment completion. And so I try to work on those weekly goals, even a daily goal, with those kids. So, you know, this is an ongoing process. What I hope it will look like by the end of spring, that these kids have a better knowledge of what's going on with them academically and how to approach helping themselves. That's really what I'm looking to do. The support systems that JVA has, I think it's the incredible, flexible teachers that we have, being able to have discussions with teachers to help a kid. The creativity of some of the teachers to help a kid is really, really outstanding. And so what support systems are you most proud of? And I think it's, I think the way JVA's teachers are accepting and able to work with kids with hard needs. So I think that is that, and I can answer any questions you might have.